Hi, my name is Keith Cooper, Northlight Images, and in this video today I'm going to cover a problem I'm asked regularly, and that's to recommend the best printer of some sort. I say it's a problem because I generally never make recommendations. However, the example I'm going to choose here is one I'm asked a lot. Which is best, the Epson P700 or the Canon PRO-300? Now, I'll break that down in a bit as to considerations you might have. But I do get asked it a lot, and the real problem is they are different. Different, yes. Better? Well, who knows? It depends on what you actually want. And often when I get asked, I'm not given anywhere near the amount of information I would need to give a measured response of, yes, well, I think maybe this one is slightly better for what you want to do. Because the key difference is not which is better, but what are the differences and what do they mean to you? Anyway, I'll come back specifically to the 300 and the 700 a bit, but things I get asked a lot is information I don't necessarily have. So I'm in the UK. I've got no idea how much these printers and the inks cost in different parts of the world. I genuinely can't keep track of it. Some printers even have different model numbers around different parts of the world. So somebody will say, what about a such and such? And I think, well, what is that? I look it up and think, well, it looks very similar to something I have actually reviewed, which I presume is why they've asked me in the first place. But I genuinely don't know for certain. Epson, I'm afraid, are particularly bad in this respect. They have such a plethora of model numbers that I'm sure it actually causes difficulty in some of their ranges of printers, even with their resellers, who must, just think, what do these numbers mean? Well, I will do another video, something about Epson printer numbering, because there is some sense in it, and I have seen some information which might be helpful to people, but not in this. We're talking about just sort of fairly basic printers that I've reviewed. Now, I've got the longer written reviews on the website, and the written reviews are always where I put all the detail and all the sort of, the nitty-gritty stuff that if you want to know whether a particular paper size is supported at borderless, look in the specifications on the written review. It's not the sort of stuff I tend to include in the videos. So, prices, I haven't a clue. Features, yes. Now, there is something I can do. Now, there may be some aspects of it, such as how good they are for office use or something like that, which I slightly gloss over, because, to be honest, I've got no great interest in it. But, I will cover it. I will look at these features. But if that's important to you, if you want an all-in-one printer with a scanner on top, then, for example, neither the Pro-300 or the P700 will be useful because they're out-and-out photo printers. They're for printing photos, artwork, and that's what they do. If you want something smaller, well, you'll get one of the all-in-one ones or a more adaptable printer. But they all have pros and cons, how easy they are to use, colour management, all of that sort of stuff. I just dislike using the term best because there are always in the back of my mind so many caveats that it's sort of, it's a question I can't answer. I could tell you the differences, but I can't say which is best. So if you were hoping that I was going to tell you which is best, the P700 or Pro-300, I'm going to suspect you should have already guessed I'm not going to give you a definitive answer. So take the 700 versus 300 on that. First of all, one of the issues I have is that I look at printers as part of a model range that's produced by a particular manufacturer. I look at the history of them because I might have done reviews of the earlier versions of a printer, and I can see how lines of printers evolve over time with new models coming in, new features coming in and stuff. So first of all, a lot of people seem to think that the Pro-300 and the P700 are equivalent printers. Well, they are equivalent insofar as they are both pigment ink printers. That puts them firmly into the higher quality category from my point of view for making prints. But they are not really equivalent because the P700 is a 13-inch version of the 17-inch P900. Now, there are a few differences, and you'll have to look at the reviews to see the actual differences in them. Things like ink cartridge size and things like that. That's another thing I can never remember. I have to look up stuff like that. They're so different when they come into it. But as I say, the P700 is a narrower, a 13-inch P700. The Pro-300 is an advancement of the old Pro-10. In fact, it uses the same print head. It is not a 13-inch version of the Pro-1000. Now, many people would put the Epson P900 and the Canon Pro-1000 in a broadly similar category, and I would. They are similar. There are a lot more similarities between those. The 700 is like a reduced size one. The 300, the Pro-300, has small ink carts, so that might make a difference to you. But it's much heftier. Pro-300, I know it if I have to carry it any distance. P700 is quite lightweight. Now, does that make a difference? Is the paper handling a bit more robust in the Pro-300? Well, there are lots of things. It depends, once again, on what sorts of paper you're printing on. What about the media types that are supported? There is no simple one-to-one equivalence. Now, I've written articles and I've done stuff before about why I never make recommendations and never say the best, what's best. Is because once you get to two printers which have enough differences between them as the 700, you can't do an A versus B comparison. You can, and I'm sure magazines and websites will attempt to do such stuff, but the criteria they use are usually meaningless, and they're very selective. I don't like reviews which give scores, so many stars. We will award this printer, a gold star or something like that. I don't like that approach to reviews. It makes it easier for people who want to make buying decisions, but I'm not doing that for you. I don't care. I'm assuming that people who watch my videos, read the articles, are smart enough to be able to work it out for themselves. And if they want a bit more, I've always said, ask me questions about it. So, what am I saying about them? Well, first of all, don't assume they are equivalent and then try trading them off. Look at what features you've got, what things are important to you. Whether if you want to say a P700, you might decide that actually with the larger ink tanks, and we'll gloss over the roll paper support, because for roll paper support I'd probably want something much more like this P5000 here, which is a big hefty printer. But P900, the Pro-1000 has been around quite a few years. I get asked regularly about, is there a new replacement for the Pro-1000 coming? Well, there probably will be one time. I haven't a clue as to what's happening on that. I had thought it would be by now, but timescales, I have no idea. I'm not expecting to see one anytime soon. I could be surprised. Someone could phone me up from Canon next week and say, look, we've got this printer coming. Do you want to have a look at it? Great. I would hope to have a look at it, but I don't know. And I can't give you any information on that area. Remember too that when you look at this, I've said this sort of like false equivalence between the two. It's marketing. Most of what you'll read is heavily influenced by marketing materials. I am to myself to some extent, because I rely on the specifications and features that are advertised in printers. Now, I do a lot of testing and try and find out what you can and can't do with them, how well they perform. But I'll leave you with one bit about the comparison. Here is a print I used the other day in a video. Now, this came from a box I've got of prints. I can't remember when I produced this print. There's nothing written on the back of it. So whilst the box indicates what the paper is, and even that I can't remember, I have to check the box to see what it is. I could not tell you whether this print was made by an Epson P700 or a Canon Pro-300. Both of those would have produced a pretty much identical print, I'm going to say. Now, there are differences between the printers, and I'm sure if I got my microscope out and looked at the ink dots and that, I might have a clue. But real people don't look at prints. with microscopes. So we've got a print here. We've got an excellent looking print. This is one of my architectural images from a few years ago. That, yeah, it doesn't really give any help. And there comes down to it. With both the P700 and the Pro-300, if you get a duff print out of it, it is almost certainly your fault. Any limitations of those two printers are almost always user limitations. I know they are for me. If I mess up a print, it's my fault. I haven't done it. Yeah, the printers are at a level now where to get the best out of them, you need to know what you're doing. But the differences between them are getting less and less. As I said, ignore the marketing stuff. When it comes down to it, if you want to make great prints, a good print today will give you great prints if your photos are up to it and your skill and knowledge of using the printer is up to it. That's what it comes down to. So sorry there if you wanted a buy one or the other advice. I can't give it you. I can tell you what I like. Both make some great prints. But other than that, I'm afraid you're going to have to make up your mind yourself. Yeah, maybe your budget will decide it. Maybe not. Maybe other issues. Have a look at the reviews, black and white performance, things like that, different media. All might make a difference. But when it comes down to it, it's something you're going to have to decide yourself. I hope that's of some use. And not too annoying for anyone who was hoping to buy either of those two printers. But really, it's about far more than just simple price to me. There are all kinds of things what you can and can't do with these days. There are some really nice printers out there, and ask some questions, please do. It's people's questions that give me ideas for these videos. Please do subscribe to the channel, and also if you get a chance, if you found it useful and you're on a forum or anything, please do mention the channel, because it's really appreciated. The channel's growing really quite nicely now. I'm glad lots of people find this sort of information of use, and I'm sure many more would if only they knew it existed. So thanks for watching, and bye.